Piramal Enterprises is open to a big acquisition in the pharma sector if the opportunity so arises. In an exclusive conversation with Nisha Poddar, Piramal highlighted that the funding will not be a problem for them and they were on the prowl for a pharmaceutical company with reasonable valuation and long-term growth potential. Listen in.
If we find that there are businesses that we can acquire which will have a long-term value creation potential and which we can get at a reasonable valuation, we will definitely do that. So we are examining it, but we have not come to any definite term potential in it.
And how much of your kitty would you set aside for any such inorganic growth in pharma?
So I don't think funding is a constraint, so it depends on the opportunity. Right. If we think it's worthwhile, then we will adequately fund it.
Mr. Piramal, you know it better than me that Indian pharma companies have been saddled by not just pricing pressure but also US FDA concerns. Some of them have succession issues as well, and management bandwidth is also lacking in some of them. Do you think that some of those big pharma companies or sizable pharma companies also, they will be also on your radar?
The gains and the advantages that Indian pharma in the export had for generic exports is no longer there. That's why if you look at our own strategy of pharma has always been to get niche, complex products for export. But for the simple generic oral solid dosage products, I think that market is highly competitive and not so profitable. So that's not something we are looking at. We would look at the domestic, and if there are even larger companies that want to exit out, I mean, we are open to that.
Okay. And what about the valuations currently? Even though the markets fell and the overall performance of the companies came down, a lot of investors say that in terms of valuations, the market capitalization of most of the pharma companies which are struggling is still on the higher level. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so rather than be, this is a very general statement, but yes, there are some valuations which are high. That's the challenge when we have to, when we are looking at acquiring. Unless and until we find that there is a reasonable valuation or a valuation that we think in the long term we can create significant value, only then would we invest in.
You have looked at several assets, several OTC brands, but you have always found the valuations unattractive. How are they poised right?
So we have actually done acquisitions in OTC. We have not done the really mega acquisitions, but we have been growing OTC. What we're doing in OTC is actually what we did in the domestic market earlier. We are building on our sales, we are building on our distribution, so that we have the pipe ready for introducing new products, and we could introduce products either through our own development which we are doing or through acquisition of smaller products.